Hello, my name is Corey Wilson, candidate number 4460. This is my response to the Creative Critical Reflection question number 3. The question reads, how did your production skills develop throughout this project? At the start of my journey into making a music magazine, I was very inexperienced at doing anything regarding digital design. However, throughout my journey, I gained plenty of experience and skills, bringing my design capabilities to a whole new level. My initial skills were basic photography, practically no editing capabilities. I was familiar with basic software, and I had limited design knowledge. Here's the steps I took during the research and planning stages. Initially, I conducted plenty of research on the conventions and magazines, some music related and some not, and I attempted to recreate many of these conventions in my final product. I then practiced capturing plenty of photos. I went out and tried many types of shots, high angle, low angle, eye level, etc. I also messed around with the lighting and the time of day, as well as props and actors, to see what would work best for my project. The final stage was content planning. I went through a multi-step draft stage in order to determine the layout of the pictures, the text, and every other element on my final product. I also had to figure out what the text would be about, what my DPS article would feature, what my cover lines would be. I don't need to get into it. Here's my initial design skills. As you can see, they were very iffy, messy, illegible. The color scheme isn't really there, just very rough at the start here. As you can see in my paper draft, it is messy all over the place. This layout is very complex and way too complicated. While this isn't my final design layout skill showcase, it does show how I improved at the draft stage of my project. The layout's a little bit more planned, a little more clean, and the color scheme isn't really there, but again, only a draft. Here's the photography and image editing arc of my progress. Starting off, I didn't know very much about photography. I knew a couple camera angles and some film techniques, but aside from that, nothing. At the intermediate stage, I practiced many different shots, and I became more familiar with high angle, low angle, two shot, over the shoulder shots, but important terms like rule of thirds were still very foreign to me. By the time I had finished my project though, I had become pretty proficient in picture taking. I also was able to work on my photo editing skills much more, like in Photoshop and Adobe. Feedback and revisions. An important step of the process was collecting feedback from some of my peers. I sent out a survey and I sent them my magazine, and then when I got them back, I analyzed them. I looked at which critiques were necessary and which were more suggestions, and in the final stage, I implemented them. The ones that were necessary, I fixed. Mostly had to do with typos and issues with fonts, cut off text, etc. But the non-necessary ones, I only changed few for aesthetic purposes. Here's my final product. I think it came out really well. As you can see, the layouts are clean, structured more properly. As you can see with the columns here, the images all just looks very clean, very well structured, much better than my early work. So throughout the process of making my magazine, went through many research, planning, production, revision, many stages. And though it was a bumpy ride and I started off with some pretty rough skills, my photo editing, photo capturing, magazine creating, overall design skills were all able to improve so much, and now I am at an incredibly high level compared to before. Thank you so much for listening.